Well, at it again. Collector of cool old stuff. And I think this qualifies. A recent acquisition. This is an M37B1 US Army or US Military truck. 3/4 ton truck. It is built on the Dodge Power Wagon chassis. This one was done in 1961. They were produced 1951 to 1968 for all branches of the service and were used as ambulances, command cars, weapons carriers, and various other things. Right now, this one is in weapons carrier configuration, but when in service, it was a V-126 radar truck. Had a radar unit set in the back that monitored enemy aircraft in the field, identified them, and all that stuff. I cannot take credit for the restoration on this one. That goes to Jim Marsden of Connecticut. It took him 15 years or longer to do the restoration, and he did it frame off. Everything was apart. Everything was painted and polished. Well, not polished, not on a military vehicle, but it was all painted up and made look nice, and anything broken was fixed. Not that there was much. It has 6,900 miles on it. And the only thing Jim didn't get to is the winch in the front, and I have just acquired a winch to go on there. Now, this returned from Europe in 1977 and was sold as surplus over there, shipped back here, sold to some farmers over in Connecticut who used it for a little while before they took the special distributor apart and couldn't figure out how to get it back together again. They also broke the winch, by the way. That wasn't Jim. That's because this has a full forwarding kit with a sealed distributor that has a coil and points and everything inside the same housing, all sealed up. So I guess they took it apart, just couldn't figure out how to put it back together. Well, Jim took it home, took it all apart, refurbished everything. And as you see it now, it is in original military configuration, without the radar unit, of course. And the B1s just meant that after 1958, they just made some modifications, like the side-mounted spare, and little things like that. But essentially, this is unchanged from the World War II Power Wagon. They just changed the body, that's all, and did some minor upgrades here and there. It still has the 230 flat 6, it still has the grinding gears, the heavy-duty suspension. You see, Dodge Power Wagon wasn't always just another pickup truck with heavy-duty suspension. This was purpose-made. It was very heavily constructed, much more so than an ordinary pickup truck was. You know, and now the lockout hubs on there, Jim added those, which makes it much more easier to steer and more convenient for gas mileage and such. They did not come that way in the military. It was a full-time four-wheel drive on that axle. All right, let's take a look. Walk around the truck. Have a look at the various things it has. Little storage compartments down there for jacks and tools. It's very easy to get into. It looks complicated, but it's not. That's it. Swing that out of the way, and there's your door. Now, these cabs are very minimalist. Other than just being a military vehicle, these power wagons could ford rivers, and they were designed to do that. It has a fully sealed electrical and ignition system. Now, if this does not at the present time have a snorkel stack on it, but I could easily put one on, and with that snorkel stack and exhaust extender, this was designed to go completely immersed, basically a submarine. You would pull out the throttle over here to keep your speed up, put it in gear, and simply stand up in the cab until you couldn't stand up anymore. The water would be over your head, and just let it go. And as long as the water didn't get to the top of that snorkel stack, you were good. You could ford rivers, little ponds, whatever you came across. Now, I have no intention of doing that, but the potential is there. It has the basic gauge set. You see, 6,900 miles, 909. 4-speed transmission, very low gear. We have 583s, I want to say, in this. I forget, but I think it's around there someplace. We have the winch, of course. It's non-functional now, but it'll be functioning very soon. It has the military light switch with the blackout lights, all of that. Your on-off. Military vehicles do not have keys, neither does this. Everything but the winch works in this. That includes the vacuum wipers, the heater that Jim installed down there. That's not an original M37 heater. Jim put that in because he got cold in the winter, and it does work very well. So I'm just going to leave that alone. The hole in the dashboard there is for a special manifold that directed hot air up to your windshield to defrost the windshield in wintertime, and that ran off of a fender-mounted gasoline-powered heater. Doesn't sound like the safest thing in the world, but I guess it worked because they did use it. The windshields, of course, swing out just like a deuce and a half would or anything like that. Everything is good here. And Oh, you see the levers there? That's your high-low range for the transfer case, your emergency brake, and the lever that engages the front axle. You know, it doesn't always have to be four-wheel drive going down the road. And as you see, this is a hardtop. The M37, including B1s, did not come with hardtops. They came with a canvas top. This hardtop was added by the Army when it was in Europe. A nice accessory to have when it gets cold in northeastern winters, which it does. And you can see Jim put some insulation up there. You would not want to ford completely submerged in a vehicle that has a hardtop in it like this one does, because, well, you drown for one thing. But you could easily take it to the hood level if you needed to ford that high, if you had the snorkel tube on it. That wouldn't be a problem. Let's have a look under the hood. I've already unlatched the hood. Make it a little easier to open, which I will do now. Hold on a sec. Safety rod in here. Let's put that on. Okay. There is the 230 Dodge Flat 6. As you can see, I have to touch up the paint here and there, but other than that, very good shape. Sealed ignition, sealed electronics, well, sealed wires, I'm sorry. It does have an electronic voltage regulator. Jim added that. I still have the mechanical one. I believe that is, obviously it's waterproof. It's probably EMP proof also. But should I ever need to, I can always go back to the old one. I have it. There's your sealed 12-volt heavy-duty, I'm sorry, 24-volt heavy-duty generator. This is a 24-volt system. It's original military. There's your sealed distributor and ignition. All the wires right to the caps. The plugs, everything is sealed up, so you can go right in the water with it. There's your carburetor, made for fording. Everything vents back to the carburetor of the manifold, including the fuel tank. Now the snorkel tube would attach in here, in place of this air cleaner, I guess, a special setup. It goes out through the little hatch you see right there, and it would pipe right up the side of the vehicle, up to the top, a couple feet over the cab, I guess, and there's an exhaust extender that would go back there to complete it, although you didn't really need it. Well, you did need a snorkel tube, not the exhaust extender. Then here we go. We have the tires are non-military standard, but they're good, you know, for northeastern winters. Nice heavy tread. They're perfectly good on here. The original was an omnidirectional one like this that could go on any which way and didn't matter what direction, you know. And I could always swap those if I wanted to. No reason to. There's the unlockable hub on there. Jim added. Now the markings on here, I know they're a little bit large, but they're still within standard. The markings were put on there to honor Jim's, I believe, his father-in-law's World War II military unit, 26th. I see no reason to change it. They work perfectly good. The blackout lights have been changed to signals, some of them. Got your bridge plate on there. The horn works. Now, like I said, Jim did a frame off on this. A lot of work, took a long time to do. The V126 is a dead giveaway back here. That stabilizer jack you see there was so that the truck could be leveled and stabilized while that antenna, big radar dish, was spinning around on the back. There's your Pioneer tools. Safety strap, which is there to keep cargo from sliding out. And also, this can carry troops. These seats, as you see here, these are seats. Right here, these fold down. And they make bench seats on both sides. And they fold up out of the way when not in use. And you can carry troops in the back here. And this is so they don't fall out. I believe this is a 7-foot bed. I got to measure it. I forget. Plenty of room back here for all kinds of good stuff. Firewood, anything you want to carry. And there's the hardtop. Little round window in the back. You can see some fairly crude welding here. This was not done by Jim. That is an Army upgrade that was done over in Europe, I guess, in the field. They needed to beef up the sides. They were always making little improvements like this, and they would add them to trucks as they came in for service or what have you. You can see this little bracket right here on both sides was added just to beef up the sides of the tailgate. I guess they considered them too weak, so they added that. And I guess it was somebody's first day welding. But that's all right, you know, it still works. See, we're going to have to fix that. Okay, not a big deal. An extra tail light on the back. The hook. Take a look under there. There's a lot of ground clearance on these trucks. You want to change the oil, do a grease job, and everything on here is meant to be greased or oiled. Just like the older power wagons. Now that chassis and the engine is basically unchanged from World War II. They didn't do a whole lot to change it. Still the same engine, still oil filters, everything's the same from the World War II power wagons and all that. Now the M37 fought in Korea, in Vietnam. This one was Cold War, was in Europe. And, you know, they had a long and storied history. There's your swing out windshields, the gas can, another little storage compartment on this side. Now what am I going to do with it? Well, I'm going to play with it, obviously. And I'm going to, you know, just keep it around for little jobs I do around here that sometimes require a truck. It's not going to be beat on or anything like that. I'm going to keep it nice and I'm going to keep it original. You know, I'm not going to be doing any Cummins conversions on this or anything. Not with an engine that has less than 10,000 miles on it. I'm not going to be messing with it at all. Leave it the way it is. Preserve it. There aren't that many of them floating around that are still original. You see them pop up at the shows and such now and then, but a lot of these came home and they were immediately converted to civilian use, you know, forestry service, county sheriffs, whatever. And a lot of times they got rid of stuff like forwarding kits and sealed ignitions, and they put normal start switches in them and lowered the ratio to something more highway friendly. But I see no reason to do that. I do have to add a fire extinguisher. I noticed that is missing, but that's easily taken care of. Windows go up and down. Just something that popped up unexpectedly. Jim spent a long time with this. He did a few shows with it and some parades and decided to move on to other things. And it came up for sale on a well-known site and apparently was ignored. I guess the people who saw it thought it was something else or thought it wasn't too good to be true, or was too good to be true. So he even rebuilt the steering box on this. I guess it leaked a little, so he rebuilt it. He did a lot of work. A lot. Basically, he's done everything to this that I would have done had I gotten it like he did. Everything from upgrading the brake service to .4 brake fluid to, you know, the locking out hubs, the tires. So I'm pretty pleased with it. Take a look under the front end. And like I said, this winch will not be on there too much longer. I have the new one to go on. It's all set. All I gotta do is put it in. Look at the size of the springs on there and that big rear. These things are animals. You see people doing stuff with these on YouTube that I have no intention of doing with this, but it has the potential. It's there. And it could really really get you places. Makes an excellent bug out vehicle, I guess, should you need one. 236 cylinder, basic, very simple. There's absolutely nothing complex in this engine at all. It's like a larger version of a Briggs & Stratton lawnmower. And I've had so many Mopar vehicles over the years. It's an engine I am very familiar with. It's a little different, like with the carburetor and such, but not really that much. Has a foot starter. Right there's a linkage for it. Old pod lights. Latch that down. We don't want it flying up when we're going down the road. That's never fun. Okay. Well, I guess that gives you a pretty good look at it. You'll see it again as I complete work on it and take care of the winch and all that. Oh, the signals, Jim added those, if I forgot to mention that. It's obviously not a military signal switch, but it does work. Because he was driving this on the road and he decided having signals was probably, and brake lights was a good idea. Here's an early World War II helmet. And your batteries are located underneath that passenger seat in a sealed compartment. Two 12-volt batteries to make 24 volts. And there's your heat switch. That's also non-standard. Your heater switch. Let me see if I zoom in on that so you see what I mean. Okay, M37B1.